Good afternoon, students. Yesterday we have seen about the norma basalis, anterior part and a middle part. I'll revise quickly that area. Anterior part has a alveolar socket and a hard palate. Middle part has a vomer bone in the middle. This is broad bar of bone formed by body of sphenoid and basilar part of occipital bone with an elevation that is a pharyngeal tubercle. Laterally, there are pterygoid process with medial and lateral pterygoid plate, greater wing of sphenoid bone, petrous part of temporal bone, squamous part of temporal bone, and a tympanic plate. And we have seen foraminas like incisive canal, greater palatine foramina, vesipalatine foramina. This is the foramen ovale just behind the scaphoid fossa. Foramen spinosum, in between the two is emissary sphenoidal foramina, then spine of sphenoid. This is a carotid canal which is piercing the petrous part of temporal bone, and then it opens inside. This is a foramen lacerum. So we have seen these parts yesterday. Today we will see the posterior aspect of norma basalis. Now this area from an imaginary line passing in front of occipital condyle. So behind that, this area is a posterior aspect of norma basalis, where there is the biggest foramina of the skull, foramen magnum. On each side of that, anteriorly, there are occipital condyles. So if you see in anatomical position, anteriorly there are occipital condyles. This is a wider posterior part of foramina. So this is also known as condylar part of occipital bone. Lateral to that is this area is known as the jugular part of occipital bone. Now in front of condyles, this part, this is known as a anterior condylar canal or a hypoglossal canal. And posteriorly, there is a posterior condylar canal which is fused in this bone. So we have anterior condylar or hypoglossal canal. Now in front of the jugular part, between this carotid canal and jugular part, there is this big foramina. This is known as a jugular foramina. So bigger foramina. This is known as a jugular foramina. Now this area, you see the occipital bone. This part is known as the external occipital protuberance, which you can also feel in your own body on the posterior part of your head, where the scalp is ending and the neck line of neck is standing. This is a starting. This is the external occipital protuberance. From there, a line is extending toward the foramen magnum. This is known as external occipital crest. Now from this crest, you can see two lines running. One is running from the protuberance. This is known as the superior nuchal line. And one is running from the middle of the external occipital crest. This is known as the inferior nuchal line. Now, above the superior nuchal lines, there are highest nuchal line, which comes in the occipital bone. This is a squamous part of occipital bone. This area is also known as squamous part of occipital bone. So here is the external occipital crest, external occipital protuberance. From here you have the superior nuchal line, and from the middle of crest you have inferior nuchal lines. Then in this part, we have studied about the squamous part, condylar part, and jugular part of occipital bone. Then we have the parts of temporal bone. This projection just behind your ear is a mastoid process. So here you can make out this is a mastoid process. Now, in front of that mastoid process, can you see this bony projections? These long processes or projections here is known as styloid process of temporal bone. This is known as styloid process of temporal bone. And behind that, you can see one more foramina. This. This is known as stylomastoid foramina. So mastoid process, stylomastoid foramina, styloid process. Just behind the styloid process is your stylomastoid foramina. This is a jugular foramina, hypoglossal canal, and this is a carotid canal in petrous temporal bone. So laterally here we have all these parts: mastoid process, stylomastoid foramina, squamous part and jugular part of occipital bone. So this is all about the bony landmarks of the Norma basalis. First, you be thorough with the bony landmarks: anterior part, middle part, and a posterior part. Now we'll see the attachment, muscle attachment here. So what is this? This is a posterior border of hard palate. Now this posterior border will give attachment to palatine aponeurosis. This aponeurosis has an insertion of muscles of soft palate here. So it gives attachment to palatine aponeurosis. This area, what is this area? This is known as posterior nasal spine. This posterior nasal spine give origin to musculus uvulae muscle. So the uvula is a projecting part. When you say a big R, you can see a projecting part. That part is known as uvula, and it is made up of musculus uvulae muscle. So that is originated from posterior nasal spine. Now you know there is a palatine crest running from the greater palatine foramina to the towards the middle. This area is known as a palatine crest. This palatine crest gives origin to tensor villi palatini muscle. So you have the palatine crest with the tensor villi palatini muscle. The tendon of that muscle passes over here. Then we have the pharyngeal tubercle. This pharyngeal tubercle, this gives origin to superior constrictor of pharynx muscle. Pharynx is made up of three constrictors. So upper fibers of superior constrictor, they originate from here. The anterior part in front of this, it forms the roof of nasopharynx. Nasopharynx is also part of pharynx. So anterior part here forms the roof of nasopharynx, and it is related with the pharyngeal tonsil. Now laterally on each side of this pharyngeal tubercle is attachment of longus capitis muscle. Longus capitis muscle. And medial to this hypoglossal canal, this is a hypoglossal canal. So medial to this here is rectus capitis anterior muscle. Rectus capitis anterior muscle. Now come to pterygoid plates. Now this is the lower border and pterygoid hamulus, both this of medial pterygoid plate. Lower border and pterygoid hamulus, they also give origin to upper fibers of superior constrictor muscle. Here also origin of superior constrictor muscle. Only this pterygoid hamulus give attachment to pterygomandibular raphe. Pterygomandibular raphe. Now the upper part of medial pterygoid plate, this area, it is lodged by the auditory tube. Now this is the lateral pterygoid plate. In lateral pterygoid plate, laterally there is the origin of lateral pterygoid muscle, medially origin of medial pterygoid muscle. This is a posterior border which is in the form of pterygospinous process. This gives attachment to pterygospinous ligament. Attachment to pterygospinous ligament. Now, this is a spine. Spine of sphenoid bone. This spine is related medially with the auriculotemporal nerve and laterally with the chorda tympani nerve and the auditory tube. On the lateral side here is a chorda tympani nerve and auditory tube. Medially is the auriculotemporal nerve. The spine gives attachment to three ligaments: sphenomandibular ligament, anterior ligament of malleus, and pterygospinous ligament. So this spine gives attachment to three ligaments: sphenomandibular ligament, anterior ligament of malleus, and pterygospinous ligament. So that is attached to the spine. Now, the inferior surface of petrous temporal bone. Inferior surface of this petrous temporal bone. It gives attachment to levator velar palatini muscle. Origin to levator velar palatini muscle. Now this foramen magnum, there is attachment of atlanto-occipital membrane all around, because atlas will articulate, the first cervical vertebra will articulate with this condyles, occipital condyles. So we have anterior atlanto-occipital and posterior atlanto-occipital membrane attached to this foramen magnum. On each side of this condyles, there is attachment of alar ligament. Then this crest, protuberance and the crest. This gives attachment to ligamentum nuchae. So as you go down, all the vertebra, they are in line attached with the skull. Atlas is the first. So from here, all the vertebra, they will go attached down. So this ligamentum nuchae is attached to the spines of all vertebra. Now, so external occipital protuberance. This is superior nuchal line, inferior nuchal line. So area between superior and inferior nuchal line. Medially, there is attachment of semispinalis capitis muscle, the insertion, and laterally there is insertion of obliquus, superior oblique capitis muscle. This is the muscle of skull, not of eye. So we have semispinalis capitis and superior oblique capitis muscle laterally. Now area below inferior nuchal line, there are two muscles: rectus capitis posterior minor medially, laterally rectus capitis posterior major. All these muscles you will get in suboccipital triangle of neck. Now you will study various triangles in the neck where there are many structures, muscles, nerves and vessels. So here these muscles, they are there in the suboccipital triangle. So between superior and inferior nuchal line, we have semispinalis capitis. Medially, laterally there is a superior oblique capitis. Below inferior nuchal line, we have rectus capitis posterior minor, and laterally we have rectus capitis posterior major. So these two muscles we have here. Then in the lateral area here, jugular part of occipital bone, we have attachment of rectus capitis lateralis muscle. Insertion of this rectus capitis lateralis muscle. And this mastoid process, here there is origin of one muscle, that is posterior belly of digastric muscle originates from here, and there is insertion of three muscles: sternocleidomastoid, splenius capitis and longissimus capitis. So three muscles are inserted and origin of one muscle on a mastoid process, that is posterior belly of digastric muscle originates from the mastoid process, and insertion of sternocleidomastoid, splenius capitis and longissimus capitis. So that is there. Then you can see the styloid process, long styloid process. This gives attachment to ligaments, that is stylohyoid, stylomandibular and spinomandibular, stylohyoid and stylomandibular ligament, and muscles are styloglossus, stylopharyngeus. So it gives attachment to the muscles and ligament, this styloid process. So these are the attachment on the all the structures. Again, you can see anterior part, middle part, and posterior parts. Now, as I said, there are so many foramina in the norma basalis. All these foramina are very important. You should know the structures which are passing through these foramina. Any foramina can be asked in the exam, and you should know the structure. This is the most commonly asked question, all the foramina of the skull. So pit pat the structures of these foramina. First, we'll see the incisive foramina. Now, this incisive foramina transmits greater palatine vessels and nasopalatine nerve. All these structures are written in the book, or you can make a note of this. The structure passing through this is incisive foramina passes greater palatine vessel and a nasopalatine nerve. The greater palatine foramina transmits greater palatine vessels and anterior palatine nerve. Behind that is the lesser palatine foramina. This transmits middle and posterior palatine nerve. Then comes foramen ovale. Now this foramen ovale, it transmits four structures. It is numerical, remembering for this is male, M-A-L-E. So M stands for mandibular nerve, which is a branch from the trigeminal ganglion. A stands for accessory pharyngeal artery, accessory meningeal artery. Then L stands for lesser petrosal nerve, and E stands for emissary vein connecting cavernous sinus with the pterygoid plexus of vein, male, M-A-L-E. Behind that is the emissary sphenoidal foramina. So, emissary sphenoidal foramina. So, if it is present, it transmits again emissary vein connecting cavernous sinus with pterygoid plexus of vein. Then you have this is a foramen spinosum. So, foramina spinosum transmits three structures. You can remember as M3. That is middle meningeal artery, middle meningeal vein, and meningeal branch of mandibular nerve. So M3 for foramen spinosum. Then you have canaliculus innominatus, which also transmits a emissary vein. Then we have the spine. Then come to medial side. This is a carotid canal. It transmits internal carotid artery and a venous and sympathetic plexus around it. Then we have this foramen lacerum. Now, foramen lacerum is mostly is cartilaginous throughout. It doesn't transmit any structure, but in the anterior part, it transmits greater petrosal nerve, which joins the deep petrosal nerve and forms the nerve of pterygoid canal. Then you have the hypoglossal canal. Hypoglossal canal will transmit the hypoglossal nerve, that is the 12th cranial nerve. It also transmits the meningeal branch of hypoglossal nerve and the emissary vein connecting sigmoid sinus with the internal jugular vein. It also transmits the meningeal branch of ascending pharyngeal artery. Then you have the jugular foramina. Now, jugular foramina transmits from the anterior part, inferior petrosal sinus, and meningeal branch of ascending pharyngeal artery. From the middle part, 9th, 10th, 11th cranial nerve, and from the posterior-most part, internal jugular vein and meningeal branch of occipital artery. Now here is the posterior condylar canal which is fused in this bone. It also transmits the emissary vein connecting the sigmoid sinus with the suboccipital venous plexus. Then comes the important foramina, foramen magnum. Now through this anterior part passes the apical ligament of dens membrana tectoria, which is coming from the cleavus part. Inner aspect of this is known as cleavus. So they are connecting it with the second vertebra, that is the axis. So we have apical ligament of dens and membrana tectoria and vertical limb of cruciate ligament. All these structures, they are connected with the axis vertebra. Through the middle part, we have lower area of lower part of medulla oblongata, which will continue as a spinal cord from this level. Outer aspect of foramen magnum or from the first atlas vertebra. Medulla will be called as spinal cord. So here in the middle part, we have lower part of medulla oblongata with the meninges. And in the posterior part, we have vertebral artery, venous and sympathetic plexus around vertebral artery, anterior and posterior spinal arteries, and spinal accessory nerve. So these structures will pass through the foramen magnum. Very important foramina. You all will be asked about this first. So remember what passes through foramen magnum. There are so many foraminas with so many structure. At least 3-4 structure of each foramina you should know. Then we have this styloid process. Behind that is the stylomastoid foramina, between styloid and mastoid, stylomastoid foramina. This transmits facial nerve. So it will come on the face by coming out through this stylomastoid foramina. It will travel on the face towards here and it will pierce the parotid gland. So here we have the facial nerve with the along with the stylomastoid branch of the along with the stylomastoid branch of the posterior auricular artery. So that passes through the stylomastoid foramina here. So we have seen many foraminas go through all these structures. Some I have not mentioned, like the canaliculus and all. These are very minute structure, like palatovaginal canal, vomerovaginal. I have not mentioned. They are here, very minute structure, not able to show you here on the screen. And nobody asks you also these minute details. First, you should know the major foramina and attachment. So go through the norma basalis. It's quite a difficult part of the skull. All these nerves, they are emerges through the foramina. Many of the cranial nerves, they come out through these foramina. So know the important structures. Once you understand this, you will understand how the contents are traveling from the cranial cavity to the neck region. So study this. If you have any doubt, you can contact us. Thank you.